Can you refuse to answer police questions in the USA? That's exactly what we're talking about today. Let's get started.
Short answer, yes. In most situations in the United States, you can legally refuse to answer police questions. The Fifth Amendment protects your right against self-incrimination, so you generally do not have to provide information that could be used against you in a criminal case. Many people misunderstand how this right works. Staying silent the wrong way can create problems. Talking too much can create even bigger problems. Imagine you are walking down the street. Police officer approaches and says, "Can I ask you a few questions?" Most people immediately start talking. They explain where they are going and where they have been. They explain what happened and things nobody even asked about. Sometimes those statements become the very evidence used against them later. Police officers are trained investigators and their job is to gather information. Your job is to protect your legal rights. Understanding when you must answer and when you can stay silent is a vital legal skill. The Fifth Amendment states, no person shall be compelled to be a witness against themselves in a criminal case. In simple English, you generally do not have to answer questions that might help the government build a case against you. This protection exists whether you are innocent or guilty. Many innocent people believe if I have done nothing wrong, I should just answer everything. But innocence does not protect you from misunderstandings, memory mistakes, inaccurate witnesses, or statements taken out of context. Anything you say can potentially be misunderstood or used as evidence. Criminal defense attorneys routinely advise people to exercise their right to remain silent when questioned about possible criminal activity. Many Americans believe they only have the right to remain silent after hearing you have the right to remain silent, which is incorrect. Miranda warnings do not create your rights, they simply inform you about rights you already have. Whether an officer reads Miranda warnings or not, the Fifth Amendment still exists. Suppose an officer walks up and says, "Mind if I ask you a few questions?" This is often called a consensual encounter. In many cases, you are free to leave and you can ask, "Am I free to go?" If the answer is yes, you can leave, and if you choose to stay, you generally do not have to answer questions. You can politely say, "I do not wish to answer questions," or "I am exercising my right to remain silent." Being polite is usually smarter than being argumentative because the goal is to protect your rights, not start an argument. Now imagine the officer says, "No, you are not free to leave," which means you are being detained. Being detained is different, and during a lawful detention, police may investigate and ask questions. Being detained does not eliminate your Fifth Amendment rights, as you can still refuse to answer investigative questions. You may have to comply with lawful orders, and in some states provide identification, but that does not mean you must answer every question about what happened. Did it? Traffic stops are where many people accidentally hurt their own legal position. Officers may ask, "Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Have you been drinking? Or do you know why I stopped you?" Drivers must generally provide driver's license registration and proof of insurance, but beyond required documents, you generally do not have to answer investigative questions. That does not mean you should be rude. It means you can politely decline. After an arrest, your rights become even more important. Police often want to conduct an interrogation. Many people think explaining everything will prove their innocence. That belief is one of the most common mistakes people make. Investigators are gathering evidence. They are not your defense attorney. If arrested, a safe legal response is invoking your right to remain silent and requesting a lawyer. Once you clearly request a lawyer, questioning generally must stop until counsel is present. Staying silent without invoking your rights can be a critical mistake. Silence alone is not always enough legally. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that sitting quietly is not always the same as invoking your Fifth Amendment rights. Courts emphasize explicitly stating you are exercising your right to remain silent. Legal experts recommend saying, "I am invoking my right to remain silent," then stop talking. Words like maybe, sort of, I do not know, or no comment are weaker than a clear statement. A clear statement is stronger. Many defense lawyers advise remembering the 4 words, "I want a lawyer." Once you request an attorney, stop talking about the case. Do not explain, justify, or try to convince police you are innocent. Simply wait for legal counsel. Invoking your rights does not physically stop an officer from speaking. The key is to continue exercising your rights and avoid volunteering information. Many people invoke their rights, then immediately start talking again, which defeats the purpose. Some worry that refusing to answer will make them look guilty. Exercising constitutional rights is not a crime and is protected regardless of appearance. Your right to remain silent is powerful but not unlimited. You may still be required to provide identification or vehicle documents depending on circumstances. Some states have stop and identify laws that require you to identify yourself when lawfully detained. Do not lie to law enforcement because it can create separate legal problems. Do not resist even if you believe the officer is wrong, because fights on the street make things worse. Do not argue because arguments rarely improve the situation. Do not consent casually and understand what you are agreeing to before agreeing. A cautious, practical response is stating, "Officer, I am invoking my right to remain silent, and I would like to speak with a lawyer." Then remain calm, respectful, and silent while you wait for counsel. That approach is usually more effective than trying to talk your way out of trouble. Yes, you can usually refuse to answer police questions in the United States under the Fifth Amendment. However, you may still need to provide identification or certain documents depending on state law. The safest way to exercise the right is to clearly say, "I am invoking my right to remain silent. I want a lawyer," and then stop answering questions.
That's all for this video. For more information, watch these videos.